Hey guys, here is the gear for today. A new guy that you haven't really seen around me is this Omega brush. I believe it's a Pro 48 and 10048. It would be the official kind of number. I think the 100 series is their Pro series. It's their typical kind of unbleached boar bristle. It's got this big handle that you've seen on Zeniths as well as Omegas. I don't find it particularly ergonomic. If this narrower part was just a little more narrow, I think it would make all the difference in the world for me. However, this guy's just like $10, right? We'll talk more later about him. Karve, Christopher Bradley, stainless steel. And this is the B plate, solid bar B plate. We're going to put a vintage Gillette spoiler blade in it. Don't think it has too many uses on it. And then Gatlinburg from Stirling. We are continuing with having fun with Stirling soaps because this past January was their 10th anniversary. And I do enjoy my Stirling soaps, so what better time than now to just run through them. I just went into my tub of Stirling and just grabbing ones just to have fun. Gatlinburg is one that is a scent that I may never want really in a balm or especially a splash or an EDT because of the conifer notes, the pine, the fir, that sort of thing. Might be in the wrong direction for me. I like more like oak and mahogany and those other more hardwood focused types of woody scents. And so we'll see what comes across in the soap because it is going to be a muted version of what you probably get with the splash and the EDT. All right. It may be that the muted version is something I really enjoy. So we'll just see how it goes. I have already pressed a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon down into the bottom of my lather bowl since I am dealing with a sample. And this is, I'll show you the full size here. This is, Mountain Man, of course, but this is the 1 ounce full size that they give you as a sample. Tremendous, tremendous. Great value in their samples. I tell you, if I had everything to do all over again, with the exception of occasionally finding a great deal on used soap on the secondary market, I wouldn't buy any new soap except for maybe a limited release that might come out that was just especially attractive to me, just jived with me, you know. I would have lived maybe the first year or two just off Sterling samples because the 1 ounce sample that they provide pretty much gives you at least a month's worth of shaves, or it would me, I think, or close to it. And so it would be great to just jaunt back and forth between those samples and just enjoy playing around with those for a while, right? As you figured out what scents you liked and what you didn't like. Let's get the blade in the razor. I love my Karve razors. They have the new Outlander out now. I've seen that maybe for the first time a couple weeks ago, and the head design kind of looks like some other razors out there. And so, even though I'm a big Karve fan, I'm not necessarily um, jumping at the chance to buy the Overlander. So the spoiler goes in. This is the Chris Bradley. The B plate is super comfy for me. I think it's rated as a neutral exposure neutral exposure setting, where the if you draw a line between the top cap, the outermost part of the top cap, across toward the safety bar, so that it rests on both spots, then somewhere in the middle, if it's a neutral exposure, then the tip of the blade, when we're looking at it from a cross section, that's where the tip of the blade stops as well. Past that point, that line, if the blade goes, then it is positive exposure. Back, it's negative exposure. So neutral, I believe, is what they've said. And I consider this guy not necessarily a mid-range shaver because he's so much more comfortable than that. Slightly on the smoother side of mid-range, but I think he's just terrific. Works really well for me. Now I can get my face wet. The brush has been soaking. They make this one in, I think, it's just plastic handle. One of the reasons why it's on the low end of the price spectrum, as I shake most of the water out. They make it in black and red and white. And it's got a reasonably long throw. I keep saying throw. Why does that come to mind? They call it a loft in the brush world. So it is longer even than the Smoke Owners Club. But the Smoke Owners Club really kind of average, I think. So it's a little bit longer. And you may find if you're loading from a soap tub, one of the problems with these long lofted bores is the tips. And this definitely happened with the Pro 49, which has a longer loft than even this guy. The tips would stay in the same spot in the soap tub while the curvy part moved around, and so it would just kind of dig in the middle, and it didn't do a very good job of picking up soap, right? And so what you can do is choke up like that to shorten the loft so that you can move the tips around on the soap effectively. Hey, we're gray. We got a gray bowl and a gray shirt, and that's actually, yeah, it is kind of a gray background. All right, so I tried to spread it thinly because this particular sample had aged a little bit, and so if I put down a really thick portion of it in the bowl, it's possible it might not get worked up with the brush. Now, there are a ton of people who love these Omega brushes. I don't really know why, because they are just at the bottom of the heap in terms of bores that I choose to use. A couple things that come to mind as far as why. If a person uses a more dry lather than I do, then that thickness of the lather hides some of the prickly nature of these boar brushes. So there's that. It's definitely less comfortable to me than my Zeniths and Simogs. And a lot of the Omega bores share these same bristles. And so a lot of them are going to have some issue. I've had reports of people with their Omega brushes and how they can use them for a year straight and they're still not really soft in the tips. And so that's why I kind of gave up on a couple of my Omegas. I still have one in my Borathon rotation just to be a representative of that genre, because after all, a lot of shavers do use it. And of course, if you like a little bit of scritch and scrub and that kind of thing, then these types of Omega bristles are going to appeal to you. The only other thing I can think of is that a person might like them because they use some kind of accelerator break-in to soften up those tips. People use the soaking method, long soaks with vigorous work on a towel between soakings, to try to split the tips. If you've been watching me regularly, then you know that I have started to blow dry some of my bores. I'm going to put that as a part of my rotation with some of my bores in my regular rotation so that they can just get broken in a little quicker. We've got a nice little lather going here. And so that's what I'm wondering. Maybe this brush is going to be the red-headed stepchild until the tips get nice. And so this brush here came to me as a part of a lot purchase, and I've already got an Omega, this one right here, that's a part of my Borathon, and so it's the same bristles, and so I don't need another one. And quite frankly, I like this handle a little bit better. And so then this one, what can I do with it? Well, I could sell it for a few dollars, but I think it would be worth more to me and maybe to you guys. Maybe it's going to help you out. Look at that. Lather's looking really nice. Maybe it would be a help to our community if I were to abuse this guy in the sense of doing whatever I feel like to try to get his tips, even risky procedures, to try to get his tips to split, because maybe we can turn this ugly duckling into a beautiful swan. And by doing that, and if so, then that means there's hope for all you guys with Omega brushes out there who might be thinking that they are less than. I think one of the reasons Omega likes these long lofts is because the tips are so prickly and scratchy and sometimes, and so if they loft them really long, then that can make them feel softer. It can lessen the pokey effect. So I think it's smart of them to do that. All right. Beautiful. Yes, there we go. Beautiful lather there. Stirling is just so terrific here. The scent is not strong. As I've mixed up the lather and I pause right now and I try to remember how it smelled, I'm not remembering anything. So let's get my nose in there. No, it's not very strong at all. Sure, I smell the woodsiness, but it's kind of weak. And sometimes samples are that way, especially this one. It's probably been around for a while. Probably just lost some of its juice, you know. Figurative juice. Get my face wet again. All right. Yeah, I can feel kind of definitely not a soft experience here. You can definitely feel the kind of a firm wiriness. My Smoke Owners Club kind of has a similar kind of wiriness, but it's just a little bit softer. I was going to use Michael Friedberg's fine aluminum slant because I want to use that on a couple more blades before I send it back to him. And I was looking at my log for when I did use that one, and it felt a little aggressive on the third pass. It was fine on the first two. And so I didn't want to use it today because this brush could, with its prickliness, kind of bother my skin a little bit. And I want to use that fine aluminum when I have a nice soft brush. This brush is definitely doing a little bit of exfoliation. I do like the fact that it's not super dense, and so I'm not having to roll it around too much to try to work the lather through the brush. You know, like the middle of the brush hasn't emptied out, you know, it's able to move around, and that's what a lot of the non-dense brushes can offer you, a little benefit they have. And so, yeah, it's not super comfy. I mean, it gets the job done, but nobody's ever going to say this thing's soft when you're doing these scrubbing motions, okay? If you're just a painter where you do this, then just about any brush in the world is going to appear soft. And this could use a little bit more water if I wanted to. Take some of this excess off. Yeah, look at that. See those contours? I could put a little bit more water in that if I wanted. I'll just splash my face a little extra, leave a little bit of extra water on my face after the rinse. That'll probably treat it just fine. All right. So it definitely doesn't give me a luxury, you know, kind of experience because of the lack of that softness. But again, this is likely a very young brush. I want to be very clear about that because with boars especially, no matter what brand, you can't compare a young one under 30 uses, sometimes even under 100 uses or 60 uses. You can't compare that to how it's going to be 600 uses from now. And I got a feel in most boar brushes, you get them to that point, you're going to love them, and you're going to keep it for years and years and years and use it and enjoy it. It's from information I've gathered from hearing what other people had to say and my experience watching my own brushes soften up over time. I think that's a fair thing to say. All right. The B plate, easily going to take care of 1.5 days of growth. I've been using injectors for a while now, and Turning back to a DE is nice. The edge, I just somehow like the edge better on the DEs. So this is, I can tell that I'm cutting off a larger than average amount of growth, because it's giving me just a hint of tugging and stuff. A little water. All right, second pass. So what this shave is a baseline shave. I'm going to try to pay special attention as I make the notes in my brush section in my database for this shave. Register a little bit of prickle, a little bit of scratchiness. If I keep the tips extended like this and I kind of move like that, it's definitely a scratchy brush. But obviously I'm pushing a little bit more than that, and that causes the tips to bend over a little bit, and so not experiencing that scratchiness in general. But I hope that I did treat this one time with the hairdryer, so it's not a completely baseline zero test, but I mean, come on, it's still scratchy after one treatment, so I think we're going to be able to see some progress. I think it's a valid kind of thing. And just hopefully I'm gonna hair dryer the heck out of it. Maybe once a day, maybe once every other day. And so after a month, have 30 or 20 or 30 treatments in there. Maybe try it every 15 treatments, something like that. I might also just kind of keep it long soaking and take it out and brush it on the towel, a lot to try to get those tips working. I'm not going to try anything that I know is going to be destructive to the tips, because I don't want to ruin the brush unnecessarily. But if I keep seeing those splits stay, and I see, well, we got a lot that have 4 splits, a lot that have 3, 5 even, then I know that I'm not being too abusive in my treatments. The lather's just perfect. It's really wet. Very slick, but also a creamy luxurious nature to it. And we were very efficient in the first pass, and so we don't have a lot of stubble to cut down now here on this second one. Easily moving through the hairs. The spoiler is definitely a good blade. I remember the first razors I tried with it, I was impressed, and I could definitely see why some guys might try to grab some of these off the used market. I don't think they're necessarily super special. I don't think they, beat the heck out of, I don't think they're above every current blade that we have going here. I think for me, blades like the Gillette Silver Blue, the Nassets, Pole Silvers, now discontinued, probably the Gillette Platinums, the blacks, the 7 o'clock blacks, all work really well, and they're right on par with this guy here. So I wouldn't break the bank trying to gather up a bunch of these or pay an expensive price for one pack of these online, unless you were just curious or just had the money and wanted to blow it. I don't think you're missing out, because I think we have a lot of modern blades that do really well, kind of like this one does. Well, in terms of the soap scent, always is the case when I lean down to kind of splash my face after the shave, I get an extra dose. Maybe I'm in a more restricted environment, and so the scent strength is about as strong as it's going to be when I'm in that posture. And sure enough, I did notice it's still kind of weak. Probably just age of the sample, I'm guessing. But I definitely don't have a problem using this. Is not using this soap because the scent strength is not so much that it's bothering me. Matter of fact, if I had a cabin in the woods, or if I just wanted to remember a cabin in the woods, this might be a good way to do it. It doesn't have a lot of character. It's not super complex or sophisticated or nuanced. It's pretty straightforward. But sometimes a straightforward woodsy scent is what you want. And third cleanup pass. Moving easily. Awesome Stirling beef tallow lather. And there we go, a nice comfy shave. So I was able to kind of mitigate the brush. Didn't get any brush burn. Definitely wouldn't want to use this brush at this stage with a razor that I felt was aggressive for me, because the razor burn combined with this would kind of bring me into some skin irritation, I'm pretty certain. So that has turned out to be not only a comfortable shave, I've got no irritation at all, but a close one too, even on my trouble spots. And that's just what can happen with a really nice lather and a great razor like the Karve. So we loaded a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon of soap and about 20 milliliters of water for that perfect lather. In terms of perfect for me, you may like yours more dry, you may like yours more wet, but for me, this was perfect. And I have, after those 3 passes, I've probably got another 3 passes here if I wanted to do it, and you can see how beautiful that lather is. So we have given this brush a good rinse out. Nice thing about these non-super dense brushes like those badgers that just have tons of hairs is that it's easy to rinse them out. It doesn't take too long at all. I got a towel right here. I'm going to work it up on that a little bit. And that's what it looks like after a little bit of towel work. It's not splaying, a ton, kind of like the Simogs do. I think these are just a different kind of bristle. And it'll be really interesting to be able to compare a brush like the Simog Owners Club here with the Omegas. I think these are definitely a finer grade, a thinner and finer grade of boar bristles, and so we'll just see how the splits affect things. You can just see. Of course, this one's fully dry. This is not fully dry, and this one's also been through 10 treatments of the hair dryer and 60 something uses, and I'm confident this guy's not nearly there. And so it's not a fair comparison, but I just wanted to show you a little bit. And so hopefully he'll splay a little bit more over time. But most importantly, we hope that those tips are going to do a nice job of splitting. Matter of fact, why don't I hit it with a hair dryer also? All right, after the hair dryer, you can definitely see a difference just because it's dry now. Previously, it was lightly wet. Even after the towel stropping, you still had some tips clinging together because of the moisture there. And since that's been removed, it has puffed up a little bit. But hopefully you can see if there's a good enough resolution. We've got some split tips around the edges, and I can definitely see plenty of curled tips here. Now, something that will continue to plague you with an Omega type knot is the bad bristles. Okay, they are definitely less picky when assembling Omega knots than they are with Simogs and Zeniths. They are more consistent with the latter two there. They seem to just take more care with picking out the backwards hairs, for instance. And so if you want to look I bet it won't take us too long. Yeah, I can see like 5 of them just in this little clump that I've managed to get out. Now let's see. Here's one right here. Um, and what it is that the hair was put in backwards, and so you're seeing the root. This guy right here, he is just very firm, and now maybe eventually he'll split, but man, I've got a feeling that it might take a long time. And right now, he is providing a lot of that prickly feel. And so, a favor you can do yourselves with brushes like these is to grab a hold of him and pull him out to the side, and then cut him down. Cut him as close to the knot as you can, so that he's not going to touch your face during the operation, and you'll cut out more of those with an omega than you'll find in like zeniths and Simogue. But I mean, considering how cheap it is, I don't really mind that too much, right? If it lands you in a good place later on, then I'm fine with that. I'm fine with, matter of fact, kind of grooming it kind of increases your bond with the brush, right? So you can definitely get rid of those. You can also feel around for them. Pull out a chunk and feel for the firmest tip, that kind of thing. And then I guarantee you're going to start to lose more of a prickly feel by that one operation of going through and finding as many of those as you can and cutting them out. You'll lose some of that prickle, and the brush will be more comfortable even if you don't do any kind of break in at all. So I'm going to be doing everything I can to soften this guy up, and we'll see how he lands in the future. So the Karve did great, as I kind of expected it would. And this is the stainless steel version, and I think it pretty much performs the same as the brass. If I had to pick, I'd probably pick the brass, maybe, but I don't know. They're both great. I like the smell of brass myself, and I like the kind of the warmth to it. It has just a natural warmth and a certain feel to it that the stainless doesn't have. But there we go. And spoiler continues to do great. Dry him off a little bit there. And my face was treated so well that I feel like I could pick an alcohol splash for. Oh, you know what? I have been forgetting about my 2 Chatillon Luxe salves, Bon Vivant and Gratiot League Square. Let's use GLS today. If it does separate like it used to a while back, then you can just reconstitute it by using a toothpick or something thin like that and stirring it all together. It doesn't really take a whole lot. Let's see. And it does better if you kind of work it in your fingers or in your palm before you put it on your face, but I'm just kind of going to skip that step. And it's definitely something that is not like a balm, not like a something really slick and oily. It's very much kind of like a buttery kind of product. So don't be surprised if you need to slow down. Otherwise, I could maybe give myself a little bit of irritation because of the skin friction, the drag, But yeah, that's got a great scent to it, and it's nice and nourishing and protecting to the skin. All right. Excellent. So that's a great scent that I look forward to smelling on myself as we go to work today. All right. Well, a little bit of shaving lather left over there. Oh yeah, good scent. Of course, that is working very well with the light woody scent left behind by the soap. Definitely not interfering at all. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem using this Gatlinburg. And my guess is that if I had a whole tub of the Gatlinburg and I just wanted a woody, outdoorsy woody scent, I bet I'd like it. I bet I would. But I got plenty of soaps right now. I don't think I feel the need to go ahead and pick one up just for that purpose. Got a cabin in the woods or something like that, and you want to have a rustic feel, then yeah, buy a tub of this and keep it there. It'll last for a long time. I think that would go well. So so that was the baseline test for this 48. the Omega Boar Pro 48. And yes, we had some prickle and a little bit of scritch. Um, and but I liked the way it splays. It is effective at working up the lather. So if we can just cut down on that prickle, then and we get some soft little area, then that'll be just a wonderful thing. And that could take these boars like the Simogs and there's a couple of Zeniths, but a lot of Omegas are at that price point of like $10 to $12. And so, I mean, come on, that's maybe one of the best brush deals on the market if you can get these tips to soften down. For any that you can, if they're too prickly, soften those tips, and then you can turn it into just a deal of the century, best value, kind of bang for your buck kind of thing. So that's what we'll try to do with this brush. We're gonna beat it, beat it up with the hair dryer and the towel and all that stuff, and see what we get. Wet and dry cycles as well. I'm not going to keep it wet all the time. Let it dry, and then once it's fully dry, I'll do something else to it with wetness, that sort of thing. Well, there we go. That's today's shave. Oh yeah, the Gratiot League Square. I'm going to enjoy that. That's really a good scent. You guys take care. I hope there's something here that'll help you in your shaving journey. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Goodbye.